I'm Emily, and welcome to my Refresh and Restore Yoga series. Today we'll be working a little bit more on our shoulders, our arms, our wrists, building some strength, getting some activity and movement into those body parts, and restoring at the end of practice. Go ahead and grab some props. They don't need to be fancy yoga props. A couple blocks or books, boxes, blankets. You can use towels or a throw blanket. Make sure you have a strap or a scarf or a belt. I'm sitting on my bolster, but you can grab either a bolster or a big pillow. All these classes are free, donation-based. Everything that I receive, I'll donate to two San Francisco organizations, Rise Yoga for Youth and the Center for Families at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital. You can find more information in the video notes on my website. I hope you're able to support them, but most of all, I hope that you enjoy this class and feel refreshed and restored afterwards. So when you're ready, coming into a comfortable seat, it can be on a prop to help give you some length in your spine. Just stepping up the clock here so we can keep track of time. Your hands can be wherever feels most comfortable for you. If it feels okay, you can close your eyes or you can soften your gaze to a point a little bit in front of you. I'm just starting to notice the quality of the breath, grounding down into the sits bones and the hips, lengthening the spine up to the sky, including the back of the neck. Seeing where you're breathing in, maybe it's your belly or your chest. Maybe notice whether the inhale or exhale is a little bit longer or deeper. Not judging or changing it yet, just noticing. Taking stock of how your body feels in this moment. Maybe setting an intention for how you'd like to have your body or your mind feel after this practice. You might want to dedicate your practice to someone or something outside of this room. When you're ready, you can begin to deepen your inhales and exhales. Trying to breathe maybe a little bit more through the sides of the ribs, from front to back and side to side. Maybe softly closing your lips and breathing through your nose. You can join me here, but I'll begin practice with a single Om. So taking an inhale. That vibration can be a really nice, powerful way to start the practice. When you're ready, you can start to slowly open your eyes or blink them, even if they're already open. Keeping your gaze soft, starting to wake up a little bit from having them closed. And we'll begin practice in standing. So, however, bringing your hands in front of you, feet under you, carefully coming up to a standing position. You can rip some of your props out of the way. Deciding how far apart you want your feet. They can be right next to each other or more under your hip, your thigh bones. Rocking forward and back to find a good placement of the weight in the middle of the foot, towards the heel, but kind of around this bony part. of your foot. Checking in to make sure you're not thrusting your hips forward. Hips stacked over knees, stacked over that bony hip point. Your knees can have a little bit of softness and bend. Check that you're not hooking your booty out, you're not tucking your pelvis. You have a neutral, natural curve in your low back. Chest is rising, but don't splay your ribs open. See if you can bring some containment to the front of the ribs. Shoulders naturally kind of by the sides. You could roll them and shrug them up to your ears to find that spot. Kind of pull them down, pull them up, to find something in the middle. Back of the neck long. Chin not tucked. Don't thrust your chin forward. Bring it nicely back in line with the shoulders. Taking the arms, elbows bent, palms facing towards the ceiling. Drawing the elbows down to the ground, fingers spread wide, and starting with the fingers pointing out and away from you, in front of you, and then slowly pivoting, rotating from the elbow point, starting to bring the arms out to the side. Elbows drawing down, hands and fingers starting to point out and away from you in either direction. Pushing through the feet, maintaining your long spine. Starting to wake up the arms. Lengthening on each inhale, maybe each exhale, broadening the rotation of the arms, broadening across the collarbones. Elbows drawing down, hands drawing out. You pick up the toes, make sure you're not clenching your toes into the ground. Pick them up and just spread them and then place them back down on the ground. Now slowly, on your next inhale, lengthen and begin to lean over to the right side, pushing into the left foot, keeping the placement of the arms. Hands drawing out, shoulders drawing down. Try not to crunch into the right side. Pushing through both feet. Pushing through the left will bring a little bit more length through the left side. Try not to pitch forward or lean back. Staying in one side plane. Maybe getting a little bit more stretch in the left side of the neck. Breath here. When you're ready, inhaling, coming back to upright, exhaling here, resetting. Inhale, lengthen. And lean over to the left, pushing into the right foot. Make sure you're not crunching down, but also pushing through the left foot. Elbows drawing down, hands drawing out wide. And if it's okay, starting to lean the head over to the left to get a little bit more stretch in the right side of the neck. Keeping the arms, hands pulling out to the sides, elbows in towards the body and pulling down. One more breath. On your next inhale, coming back up to upright and slowly releasing the hands down to the sides. Go ahead and grab your strap or whatever you're using, scarf, blanket, not a blanket, belt. Go ahead and grab, if you're using a strap, the metal D-ring in one hand, and maybe take it a little bit wider than your shoulders to start resetting, finding a nice placement of your feet. Pulling the strap taut, so there's some tension between your hands as your palms, fists facing down, knuckles facing up. pull through the strap, arms out in front of you to start, level. Push your fist towards the front of the room, and then pull your shoulder blades all the way back towards the back of the room. Pushing your fist forwards, almost getting a little bit of a tuck here in the upper chest. Pulling the shoulders back. Once more, pushing forward, keeping some tension in the strap, pulling back. Pushing forward, pulling back, and then now finding a spot in between. And on an inhale, starting to bring the strap up and overhead. And at any point, changing the distance between the hands to be more comfortable as you bring the strap up and over, maybe sliding one of the hands away from the other. So you can bring the arms all the way back down behind you. Inhaling the arms back up and overhead. Exhaling the arms forward down to your hips. Inhaling up and exhaling back behind you. Keeping tension in the strap. So a light pull to the sides throughout the whole motion. A couple more like this. Maybe you start to walk the hands back together as you start to wake up. Start to bring some blood flow into these parts. Yeah. Checking in, are you still pushing your feet into the ground? A nice stack of feet, knees slightly bent, hips over knees, spine long. Maybe this time on your way back, you can choose a spot that's got a little bit of that juice and just hang out there for a moment. You could start to bring the strap from side to side or just sit in that spot. Maybe nod, shake the head a little bit. Breathing into a spot that feels good. And bringing the strap down and forward in front of you. If you don't have something that's going to be a good kind of block, then for this one, use your strap, and you can take your strap behind you a little bit more narrow, almost like the distance of your hips. Standing up straight, arms straightening back behind you, and here you're going to pull the strap out and away from each other. So if you have the strap and you don't have a good block, yoga block, then that may be what you choose to do. Otherwise, I'd like you to grab the yoga block. This is going to be a lot harder than it looks. Holding the block behind you between your palms of your hands. Don't grip the block. Have your fingers straight so you're using your palms to push in to the block, the sides of them. Finding your comfortable, strong mountain pose. Think of when the strap was behind you in the previous pose, rolling the shoulders back just a little bit and starting to straighten the arms. You likely won't be able to bring them all the way to straighten. Pushing firmly into the block, trying to straighten the arms, really activating the triceps, the upper arms, the back of the upper arms. Keeping the neck long. Keep pushing into the block. I'm going to stay here for a couple more breaths. Pushing into the block. Every exhale, maybe trying to straighten the arms a little bit further. Lengthening the spine on the inhale. Trying to straighten the arms on the exhale. Pushing into the block. Starting to shake a little bit maybe. Your next exhale, you can grab the block with one hand and bring the arms out in front of you. No props. I'm going to just stand to face you so you can see this a little bit better. Finding your comfortable mountain pose, your choice of the hips, feet distance. Palms facing towards the side of the body, arms long. Make sure you're not crunching the shoulders up into the ears. Now you're going to press the entire arm into the sides of your body. I want you to be trying to crush the sides of your body with your arms, trying to bring every single point on the arms in contact with the side of the body. So especially where the upper arm meets the kind of curve of the waist, you really have to suck in the upper arms to hug that curve, pushing the palms into the sides of the thighs, wrists almost might be into your like hip points, the upper thigh, forearm into the sides of the hips. If you're doing this right, your arms might begin to shake as you try to hug completely into the sides of the body, checking to make sure your shoulders aren't crunching up. You have some broadening across your collarbone. I just realized I was letting my neck fall into my shoulders a bit, so lengthening through the back of the neck. A couple more breaths, pushing arms into the sides of the bodies as firmly as they'll go. Lengthening through the spine and exhaling, pushing into the body. Just one more breath. Lengthening. Exhaling, pushing, and maybe at the end of the exhale, letting the arms come down to the sides. You can shake them out a little. Come to stand at the top of your mat. If you'd like, you can have your blocks in front of your mat. Standing in mountain pose, inhaling, arms up and overhead, and exhaling. Hands can come down to the floor, could come down to the blocks. Inhaling, lengthening the back, pushing the head into the front wall. And then exhaling, forward fold. We'll stay here for a moment. So bending your knees as much as you'd like. If you want to adjust the distance of the feet, you choose. If you want to grab opposite elbows for a ragdoll position. Sway a little bit side to side. With each exhale, seeing if you can release tension in the back of your neck and your shoulders. If you have your elbows clasped, grab opposite elbows. So the other forearm in front. Inhaling, maybe straightening the legs, knees a little bit. Exhaling, folding deeper. Letting gravity pull your head and your arms down to the ground. And when you're ready, release the clasp of the elbows. Plant your hands firmly down into the ground, fingers spread wide. Maybe shoulders distance apart a little bit further, and just slowly step back into your downward facing dog. You can have a moment here to maybe bend one knee, then the other. Maybe wagging your tail. Just getting comfortable in your first downward facing dog for the day. Pushing between your thumb and your pointer finger, that fleshy part on your hand, between those two fingers, the thumb and the pointer. Pushing firmly through your hands. Maybe think about rotating the elbows from the sides, the pointy part down to the ground. pushing out from the shoulder socket to bring your hips closer up towards the sky in the back of the room. Try not to let your chest fall down to the ground. Don't tuck too much. Find that neutral spot, same as you were in mountain pose. And from here, inhaling, rolling forward into a plank position, shoulders over wrist crease on the ball of your foot behind you. Hips same height as your shoulders, so you might need to walk your hands or feet forward or back to find that position. Pushing the thigh bones up towards the sky. At any point you can come down onto your knees. And exhaling, pushing back into a downward facing dog. Inhaling, rolling forward into your plank or with your knees down. Exhaling, rolling back. Inhaling, rolling forward, knees down or up. Exhaling, back. A couple more like this. Inhaling forward. Length if you're in plank pose, so you're pushing through the heels and out the crown of the head when you're in plank. Exhaling back. So you're being pulled in two directions in your plank, broadening across your chest, looking a little bit in front of your hands. Exhale back, and now everyone, bring your knees down to the ground. Keeping your toes tucked behind you as you sit back onto your heels. Go ahead and check to see if all of your toes are tucked under. Your pinkies toes may need a little bit of help. As much as you can, bring your big toes together, your heels closer together, keeping the tuck of your toes. This is a pretty intense pose for a lot of us. We're going to distract ourselves from that by doing something else pretty intense. So taking your arms out in front of you and overhead, reach up, so shoulders coming to your ears and then drawing them down, coming to your ears and then drawing them really far down, palms facing the front of the room, and find that spot in the middle. Now what you're going to do is you're going to form a really tight fist with just the thumb on the outside of the fist, and then flick your hands open. So making a really tight fist with the palm facing the forward, out, and away from you. Make a flick, make a fist, flick. So doing this at your own pace, but once you got the hang of how it feels, starting to pick up the pace, maybe going a little bit faster, making sure you're squeezing each time you make a fist and really flicking the fingers out and away from you. Making sure that you're a nice long spine. You might find that you're trying to take away some of the pain by sticking your ribs out in front of you, bring them back in. Keep the spine long, shoulders down away from the ears. Maybe you aren't thinking about your feet and your toes anymore because now your forearms are starting to fire up. It seems pretty simple at first, and then it's really picking up the pace. At some point, your forearms might start to feel a little bit numb and tingly. That is fire. You're working those muscles. A couple more breaths here. Maybe one side feels a little bit funkier than the other. It's happening on my right. Ooh, just a couple more. And shake the arms out all the way up into the shoulders. Maybe give your forearm a little pinchy massage. Oh, and you want to bring your feet out in front. You can come onto your hands and your knees. Kick your feet out behind you and kick them into the ground a little bit. So coming into your tabletop position, hips over knees, shoulders over wrist crease. Dropping the belly, inhaling, looking forward a little bit, and exhaling. Rolling in, pushing the ground away, inhaling, forward, and exhale, pushing the ground away. Inhaling forward, and exhaling, pushing away. From here, doing a little bit of some wrist stretches, so coming into neutral spine. You can take one hand at a time or do this with both hands, but flipping one hand onto the back, fingers pointing towards your knees. Don't have your elbow completely straight, you can have a little bit of a bend, pushing the wrist crease pretty firmly into the floor and drawing it towards the front of the room. If you want a little bit more, you can start to sit back a little bit. You can stay if you're doing both hands, or lean forward, flipping that hand back, fingers pointing forward, and the other hand, back of the hand on the ground, fingers towards your knee, slight bend in your elbow, drawing the hand away from your face towards the front of the room, and maybe sitting the hips back. Keeping the back of the neck long, leaning forward, taking the weight off that right hand, and carefully hands back into neutral, fingers pointing out and away, rotating one or both of your hands, so palm still facing towards the ground. Rotate the hand as much as you can so that now the fingers are pointing towards your seat. So out to left hand, out and away to the left, and then all the way back around. Pushing through the heel of the hand towards the wrist. Again, a slight micro bend, drawing the palm away from you, and again, sitting back, feeling the stretch in the forearm. You can do both hands at the same time if you'd like. If you're doing one at a time, leaning forward, left hand back to neutral, right hand, right fingers out to the right, and then pointing towards the knee. Slight bend in the elbow, draw the hand away from you energetically, and sit back if it's okay, if you want to intensify the stretch in the forearm a bit. Lengthen the back of the neck, sitting back a little bit more, and then coming forward onto your hands and your knees. So I'm going to mirror you here, or attempt to. And so hands and knees, you're going to bring your left hand up and overhead towards the sky, palm facing away from you. Inhaling and exhaling, bringing your left hand in between your right hand and your right knee. Place first the back of the hand on the ground, then the shoulder and the elbow, and then place the head down onto the ground. Your elbow can be close to your right knee. You can stay right here. You can work to bring your right hip back and away from you. If you want, you can bring, and you have this ability, your right hand to your right hip. Use that to pull the hip back and away, making sure the hips are level from top to bottom, side to side. Just use your hand to check in. You can take your right hand up to the sky, maybe wrap it around you, wrapping your fingers into your left hip crease. Drawing your right shoulder back and away from you to accentuate the twist. Inhaling, lengthening, and exhaling, twisting. Checking in, again, not too much excessive weight on your neck. Inhaling, lengthening, and exhaling, twisting a little bit more. When you're ready, bringing the right hand back down in front of your face, pushing into it, bringing the left hand back out into the side and up and overhead, and then bringing the left hand over towards the right as you sit your hips back, getting almost like a little side stretch, child's pose here. So if you can have the left hand reaching towards the side of the room, front corner, or place it on top of the right. Letting the neck soften. And then coming back into tabletop position. Now inhaling, bringing the right hand up into the sky, opening up. And then right hand in between left hand, left knee. Placing the shoulder on the ground before placing your head on the ground. Staying here. Could bring the left hand to the left hip. Drawing the left hip back and away. Inhaling and exhaling, lengthening. Exhaling, twisting. Check in with your neck. You could bring your left hand up to the sky, stay there is good. Or if you want, you could wrap and tuck the fingers into your right hip crease. Inhale, lengthen, exhaling, twisting. Pushing firmly through the arm that's on the ground, the right arm, the back of the left hand, the whole arm up to the shoulder, into the ground. That's your base, that's the foundation in this pose. If you have the wrap, unraveling, placing the left hand back in front of your face, pushing into the left, bringing the right arm out and up, and then bringing it towards the left side, left hand as you bring your hips back into a child's pose, maybe even taking your hips over a little bit more to the right. The opposite direction as the hand, you could place the right hand on top of the left. And then coming out of it. Go ahead and grab your blocks and just bring them back a little bit closer to your knees. Coming back into hand and knees, pushing back into downward facing dog. See if you can take an elephant walk. So an elephant walk is trying to keep the legs pretty straight and walking the feet towards the hands. At any point, you can grab your blocks to bring the ground up. Trying to keep the legs straight again. You're slowly walking up towards the front of the room. If you need to have any sort of bend in your knees, I completely understand. So do what you need to do and what's best for you. But walking the hands or the feet up towards the hands like this, if you're, whatever you have your hands on, pushing into the ground with your hands is a really great preparation for a handstand. Walking the feet up. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale. Hands up the shins or on blocks in front of you, lengthening. Exhaling, forward fold. Either roll up or flat back. Come to standing. And find your mountain pose. overhead. Exhaling, sitting back into chair pose, Utkatasana. You could have your feet together, knees together, pushing into each other, or if they're a little bit wider apart, still having that same activity of almost like you're squishing maybe a little ball in between your knees. Inhaling, lengthen. Exhaling, sitting a little bit deeper, making sure you can see your toes past your knees. Your hip is sitting back. Your hips are sitting back into a chair. And then slowly lowering your seat all the way down to the ground. From here, we're going to come right into a altar pose position. So hands behind you, fingers towards your seat. Make sure your feet are maybe like hips distance apart, maybe you have two fists between. From here, pushing into the arms to bring the chest up and forward, a little bit of opening in your upper back. This is a great place to stay. If you'd like to move on, you can push firmly into your feet, into your hands, starting to lift your hips up towards the sky. You might need to adjust your feet, inch them out so that you have a nice reverse tabletop with your hips starting to come in line with your knees and your shoulders, keeping the back of your neck long here. Trying to roll your shoulders out. Push firmly into the hand between your thumb and your pointer finger. You could act like you're rotating your hands out and away from you. So left fingers out to the left side. At any point you can come down. Gently lower the seat down to the ground. And you can come up and down like that. So bring the seat down to the ground, pushing up. If you want to try, on your next exhale, coming onto your heels, swinging the hips back and in between your arms, arms straight. Inhaling, back up into a reverse tabletop. Exhaling, swinging the hips back, arms straight. Inhaling, back up into reverse tabletop. Exhaling, swinging the hips back. Up to the sky. And exhaling, back. Maybe one more after this. Again, you could just be doing the seat down to the ground or swinging the hips back. Toes off the ground. Inhaling up to the sky. And then everyone lowering the hips down to the ground. Walking the hands in. I'm going to have my back to you so that you can see what's going on in this pose. Coming down onto your right hip, your right shoulder. Knees can be bent. You can use your right hand as a little kickstand for your head for a moment. You're going to take your left hand, the back of the left hand to the back, and placing it wherever feels good for you along the center of your back, along your spine. So it might be right here, maybe it's in the middle, maybe you can inch it up a little bit higher. Fingers spreading wide, back of the hand on the back, and then bringing the left foot to the ground to help guide you, slowly bringing the palm of the hand onto the ground so that you're lying on top of it. Both feet on the ground, knees up towards the sky. Readjust here. Draw your front of your ribs down into the ground. You don't want to push your low back into the ground. Have a little bit of a natural curve. Front of the ribs down. And if it feels okay, you can start to straighten your legs out in front of you, toes pointed up to the sky so the legs are engaged. And from here, Think about rolling your left shoulder out and down to the ground, keeping the front of the ribs down, keeping the legs engaged wherever they are. For some people, this does not feel very intense when we're in the pose, but it feels very intense coming out of it and afterwards. So if you don't feel anything right now, don't worry too much, don't wiggle around and think you're doing it wrong. It just might, the sensation might come a little bit later. If there's any pinching in your shoulder or your elbow, do come out of it and be careful. But otherwise, staying here for another breath or two, rolling your left shoulder out, ribs down, legs engaged, pushing the backs of the legs into the ground even a bit. Your right hand can be kind of wherever feels comfortable. Checking in maybe with the different body parts. All right, to come out of it, bending your knees, placing your feet on the ground, making sure your right arm is kind of up, elbow towards the top of the head so it can be a nice kickstand for your head as you roll your knees over to the right, slowly, carefully peeling the hand off of the ground. Start to walk your left hand down your back, bringing your left arm to your side just to rest for a moment. And now you can just roll over to your left side, left shoulder coming up, left hand as a kickstand under your head, knees bent, right hand, the back of the right hand to the back, finding that spot that's gonna feel good for you. Right foot to the ground, starting to roll over slowly so the palm of the right hand is on the ground under your back. Check in with the position. Check in with the hips placement, ribs pulling in, but the low back having a natural curve. And if you want, slowly walking the legs out long in front of you, rolling the right shoulder out and down towards the ground, ribs down, feet engaged. Your legs are really in mountain pose here, so it's almost like you're standing on that front wall. Back of the neck long. Noticing if you feel any sensations here. Maybe the sensation is more a sensation of the mind about what the world are we doing, or why don't I feel anything, or whatever it is. Just notice it, check it off. Just witness it. Pushing through your legs, your feet. When you're ready, bending your knees, feet to the ground, left arm up and overhead, shifting the hips, bringing the knees over to the left, slowly peeling the hand off of the ground, down the back, side of the body. Take a moment. Right hand on the ground, using the hand to push up. And now coming into a tabletop position to start. I want to make sure there's some space around your mat for this one. You can do this from a tabletop position, hands and knees. Maybe take a quick cow and cat to find what you're not supposed to do so that you can find neutral and find something in between those two poses. And we're going to do some plank tabletop circles. So taking your left hand, right knee out, and then walking the opposite, hand and knee in, left hand, right knee, right hand, left knee. What you can do is also grab a block and place it on the low back. Easy, harder, really hard, I don't know if you can do it. This will tell you whether you're level and from side to side as we move. So doing your plank walk circles, I can certainly do it from here. This tabletop position is a great way to build strength. Trying to keep everything level, really just moving your hands and your knees. If you want to pump it up and come into your plank pose, shoulders, hips level, thigh bones pushing up to the sky, heels pushing out and away from you, crown of the head out and away as well. And then from here you can take right foot, left hand, making a circle at any point, choosing a different option. So it's the opposite hand, opposite foot, stepping out and in. And once you reach back to the top of your mat, guess what? You got another direction. So right hand, left foot, or left knee. Woo, almost lost it there. Stable. And at any point, coming down to your hands and your knees. I'll even myself out since I did half and half. Everything nice and neutral, strong and stable. Neutral doesn't mean easy. I feel like there's the perception of neutral being easy, but it actually takes a lot of stability and strength to keep that. All right, now taking the block off to the side. If you want to grab a blanket, if you know that child's pose is not a great pose for you, if it's because there's some crunchiness in the knees and your seat doesn't come down to your feet or your calves very comfortably, you can have the blanket in between your knees, the backs of your legs and your calves. Doing the child's pose with your knees a little bit more together. If you know that having the top of the foot pushing into the ground doesn't feel good, you could place the blanket under your shins so that your ankle just kind of hangs off the backside. It's a great option. Knees a little bit more together, coming back into a child's pose with whatever blanket option. Head down to the ground, we're coming into rabbit pose. Arms behind you, and you can grab your heels. And then you're gonna start to roll and tuck your chin into your chest so that more of the top of the head and even towards the back of the head is coming on the ground. So tucking chin into chest, walking, so maybe starting out here, walking in, finding the spot for you that feels okay with your neck, and then on an inhale, pushing your seat up to the sky, keeping your arms straight, pulling hands into your heels, seeing if you can get some lengthening and some stretch happening in your trapezius or the back of the neck kind of muscles. Being really careful on your neck and your head that feels okay and comfortable. I'm just taking a moment here.
drawing maybe the shoulders back towards your hips, away from your ears to deepen the stretch. And then when you're ready, hips down to your heels, arms by your head to give your neck some support as it comes out. And pushing up. All right. Finding now a forearm position. So grab your elbows to get the distance. That might be the right distance for you. Arms can be parallel, palms into the ground, or if you really prefer, clasping your hands. Walking the feet out and back behind you so that your hips are in line with your shoulders. Into a strong forearm plank, lengthening the neck forward. And from here, lifting your right toes up and off the ground, trying to keep everything else steady. Left toes up and off the ground. Right toes up and off the ground. Left toes. Try not to move everything else. Check to see if your hips have started to creep up. I do have a mirror in this room that I occasionally take a peek at to see, because it's hard. It's hard to know sometimes where your body is. I don't always practice with a mirror, but it can be really helpful. Whew. And then just a couple more. Back up. You could always do this with your knees down. All right, knees down. Walk your knees in, sit back on for a second. Coming forward, again, finding your comfortable position, hands parallel, or taking the palms together, clasping your hands, pushing your hips up to the sky, starting to straighten your legs, so you're coming into a dolphin pose. Downward dog on your forearms. Again, you can have arms in parallel. Seeing how it feels to straighten your legs. Maybe it doesn't feel good, and don't do it then. You can walk your feet in a little bit. From here, I'll show you first. You could always be in this position with your hips over your knees, pushing firmly into your arms out in front of you. You could even walk your knees back a little bit to give some more weight into your shoulders. And from here, you could do this crunch action, bringing your right knee in towards your right tricep, left knee in to your left tricep. If you want to try this from a dolphin pose, coming up into your dolphin, right leg up to the sky, hips square, toes, right toes pointing down to the ground, and then drawing your right knee into your right tricep, nose coming towards your thumbs, and then up, exhaling forward. Again, doing this on your knees from more of a puppy pose is great. Crunching in, right leg up to the back, and in. Right leg up to the back, and in. Right leg up, and then. Right leg up, and. All right. This time keeping the right leg up and then bringing it down to meet the left. Left leg up. Crunching in. It's almost like the plank rolls we were doing earlier. So the shoulders are coming forward, head towards your hands. Left leg up, crunching in. The chin comes to the hands. Inhaling up. Exhaling forward. Pushing firmly into your arms, still elbow to hands. I think maybe one or so more. Exhaling. Inhaling up and pausing and bringing the left foot down. Knees down. Push into your hands. Walk the hands back up. Just sit on your heels for a second. You can shake it out. Let's do a quick couple of chaturanga push-ups. Starting hands and knees. You can cross one ankle over the other, lifting your feet off the ground. Check to make sure shoulders over wrist creases, fingers spread wide. In chaturanga push-up, you want your elbows to hug the sides of your body as you come down. Keeping everything flat and stable. Actually think about bringing your hips and your belly and then your shoulders and chest down to the ground. Versus oftentimes people dive down. So we're gonna do it just from knees. If you want to come up onto a full plank, to come down, you can keep the integrity and the flat back, then go for it. Others will do some push-ups just coming to 90 degrees. So inhaling, everything broad, exhaling, bringing your elbows closer down to the ground, stopping at 90, definitely don't go past. But you could do just little quarter push-ups if you want. From here, but inhaling and exhaling, lowering to your point, not further than 90, exhaling, pushing up. Inhaling, exhaling, down, pausing for the inhale, exhaling, pushing up. Inhale, exhale, down to your point. Inhaling, exhaling, pushing up. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale up. Inhale, exhale down, and inhale, and exhale up. Last time, inhale, and exhale. We won't come up this time, so lowering all the way down to the ground. Hips touch ground first, then belly, then chest, and then shoulders. Take the right arm across the body, palm down. Take the left arm in front of it, crossing under your chin, both palms down to the ground, pulling the ground. Resting your chin onto your shoulders and resting here. I might feel a little bit funky on your neck, but hopefully you can spin your left side of the body even down a little bit into the ground to get a great stretch in your shoulders. Walking your left hand back, using it to help bring your right arm out into the side. Left arm first under your upper chest and chin, palm on the ground. Right arm in front, palm on the ground. Resting your chin, top of your upper arms and shoulder. Seeing if you can draw the right chest, right ribs down to the ground. They might be poking up a little. Palms firmly into the ground. Even think like you're grabbing the floor and trying to draw your arms out in a way. If you want to accentuate some of the stretch. Relaxing the neck over the shoulders. All right, walking the right hand back and under your face, pushing into it to bring your left arm out. We should have one more kind of more active pose that we'll do here. Pushing up
Coming back into a dolphin type position. You can start with puppy. You can clasp your hands if you want. Check the distance with your elbows, hands on your elbows. Clasp your hands. From here, from puppy pose, walking either the hands, the feet away, knees away from the arms or vice versa. And you can start to drop your head down to the ground by moving your elbow or your shoulders. So pushing the elbows and the arms into the ground, shoulders up and away, head down, shoulders up and away. Letting your shoulders drive the motion, not your hips. That's a great way to start. If you want to try from a dolphin position, straightening the legs, hips up towards the sky, walking the feet maybe in a little bit, dropping the head down in between the forearms, so you're almost in a kind of headstand prep position. Exhaling, pushing the head away from the ground, lifting the head off of the ground, lowering carefully, crown of the head to the top of the ground. Headstand push-ups by engaging the shoulders, the upper back. You could also practice this at the wall, even in a headstand position. Little yogi headstand push-ups. I'll do a couple more here on the prep. If you want to pause and take it to the wall, you can. Pushing into the ground, head away. Just lowering the head down in between the forearms. Pushing up and away. Lowering the head down. Pushing up and away. And lowering down, lowering your knees down. We'll come into some supported poses now, some restorative poses. You can take a blanket, unfold it so it's kind of almost elbow to elbow length, rolling it up along the long edge. Whatever you're using, it's going to be kind of a little bit bigger than the height of your fist, kind of with maybe the thumb underneath it, that height. Place that up, maybe 2/3, 3/4 way up your mat. I'm going to dim the lights a little. Do whatever you need to do to get ready. Grab a little eye pillow. So we're starting to come into some restorative poses. Make sure you have maybe a blanket towards the top of your mat for a pillow. And you could use a bolster or a large pillow under your knees. It's up to you. Coming onto one side of the hip, bringing one kind of forearm down to the ground. You want the roll to be kind of about bra height or mid ribs. So coming down onto the roll, and then same way we came down before, carefully bring one foot onto the ground, slowly rolling onto the roll. It should be lower ribs, kind of maybe just under your kind of bottom of your shoulder blades. Make sure your neck is comfortably supported under your pillow. You could stay right here. This is great. You'll get a slow, soft opening across your chest here. If you want to, bringing your legs out long on top of a bolster or directly on the ground. Up to you. Kind of wiggling things a little bit to get comfortable and cozy. In each of these restorative poses,
You want to find a spot to begin with where you feel a little bit of something, but not a lot. You want the sensation to be pretty small to begin. So especially choosing an arm position, maybe the arms up and overhead, maybe the arms out to the side, but one that you're going to be able to sustain in a happy way for several minutes. Chin in towards the chest on your pillow. And taking a sigh. In these poses, letting gravity pull you into the support of the props in the ground. These are poses of release, so you don't need to be doing anything. Allowing the body to slowly open, slowly release, slowly relax. And process the movement and things that you've been doing or things that have been happening in your life. So I've got the timer going, I've got the clock, so give us a couple moments of quiet.
starting to bring awareness back and deepening your breath. And wiggling your fingers and your toes. If your legs are out, you can bring your feet to the bolster or the ground. Rolling over onto the your left side. Pausing there in a fetal position. If you want to grab a push-up and grab a block, that could be nice for this next pose. We'll stay on the left side. The block can go kind of up and over above your head. Grab the bolster and coming back down onto your left hip. The roll in the same position under your ribs, under your lower shoulder blade, but really on kind of around that bra line. And kind of the widest part of your ribs at the bottom. You can take your bolster. It's going to depend on you whether you want to have your knees bent, place the bolster between your knees so your whole right leg from knee to foot is on top of the bolster. Some people prefer to have the left leg out long and the right knee bent and the foot on top of the bolster, and the bolster snuggler with both knees bent. Making sure again your whole leg from your knee to your foot is supported. Bringing your left arm out long, like a T position, out to the side. Palm can face up. I like to have the palm facing down. Placing your head down on your pillow. You might need to actually roll up a little bit, so you can just play with that. Adjusting here to get comfy. So in a side stretch position. If you're happy here with just your hand kind of resting, your right arm resting on your side, you can stay there. If you want to, you can take your right arm up and overhead and placing it on the block or something above your head, whatever height is comfortable, so you can play with that. Maybe you want your elbow bent a little, elbow straight, maybe kind of almost on top of the right ear. Getting comfortable here. We'll be here for a couple of minutes and then we'll switch sides.
Whenever you're ready at any point, you could roll over onto the other side. There's no rush. You could certainly stay in these poses longer. Walking the right arm back, bending the knees, placing the feet on the ground, just slowly roll over your cross, maybe bringing the bolster with you between your knees, and coming over onto the other side. Checking the placement of the roll under your rib cage, right arm out long, maybe palm facing the ground, head on your pillow. Check to make sure you're whole. Left leg is on the bolster, knee to ankle. And you can take your left arm up and overhead, really scooching the block. And a comfortable spot. When you're ready, you can begin to come out of this side of the pose. Walking your left arm down to your side. And this time, using your left hand next to your chest. After you come into a little fetal position, to use the left arm and the right arm as well. Spinning the chest down to the ground, pushing up. Coming up into a seat. You can choose here a couple of different options. Just get a little bit of a forward fold action. You could take your bolster or pillow into a supported child's pose, so knees out wide, toes together, nestling the bolster in between your knees, under your chest. I'm lying here. The arms in any position you want.
You could also come into another forward fold position. Might be a nice time to grab a sweatshirt. You could sit on the edge of a blanket. Maybe legs out, soles of the feet together, knees out to the sides. You could have it a little bit closer to your feet a little bit closer to your seat for more like Baddha Konasana, or a little bit more like a diamond shape. You can take your bolster or a block as your support. You could nestle your bolster on top of your feet. Forehead on top of the bolster and still really light, resting, forward fold, teepee pose. If you wanted to go a little bit deeper, you could take your block and also nestle it on top of your feet, adjusting your hips, hinging forward from your hip crease if you're coming down further. Take your forehead to your block, maybe arms out. Another side, and do all sorts of things. You take your rolled up blanket and wrap it around your toes, so it's hugging your shins, to make a little pillow for your elbows and your hands. When you're ready to come out of your more forward position, using your hands to help you push up. Your knees are out to the side, one hand on either side of the outside of the knee to help bring them in. And coming down into a Shavasana pose of your choice. Maybe having a blanket over your legs, maybe the bolster under your knees. Legs out wide, allowing your legs to roll out so your toes are out and away. You can take care of a blanket if you have one. How it often comes off the stack. You can hold one of the edges with lots of these folds, so not the tassel side or the folded side. Take that edge. It's a little funky, doesn't matter. And fold that edge down almost to meet, so 3/4 of the way down. And take the corner of the top part, fold it under, take the other corner and fold it under. So now you've got almost like this little like envelope flap. So again, taking from the fold, taking the corner under, this other corner under. What you get is this really nice little sweet spot to put your head. And take a couple tries to get that. That's gonna be a really nice pillow. So really you wanna roll down on one hip, one shoulder, just slowly relax into your Shavasana. Rest your props. And we'll just be here for a moment or two in terms of the recording, but if you want to stay longer, when I get up and close out our practice, you are welcome to stay in Shavasana for as long as you'd like. You know that I'll just be down here for probably 2 or 3 minutes. Arms out by your sides, palms up. Lift your shoulders up, tucking the backs of your shoulder blades underneath you. Legs stretched out from your hips. Allowing them toes to roll out to the sides. Ready to come out of it, you can start to wiggle your toes and your fingers and bending your knees, placing your feet on the ground, rolling to one side and using your hands to push you up after you've rested there for a moment. Coming into a comfortable seat. Keep the eyes even gently closed for another moment, or a very soft gaze in front of you. Your hands can come to your heart center, and I'll close out with an Om. You can join me if you like. Inhaling.
Namaste.